In this video we're having a look at the company asset modules or suite of modules. So just as we've got client equipment, we also have company assets or company equipment. So company equipment is things that a company owns that we may loan out to our staff, or we may want to keep track of maintenance, or we may want to have it as loan equipment for our staff to use from time to time and that sort of thing. So this maintenance asset, or the company assets, will help us look after that. Now it works very tightly in conjunction with the maintenance app and with the employee app, and they're very much all linked together. So when we, as the HR might issue out laptops or phones or whatever else to employees, they need to keep track of who they've given what piece of equipment, and then if that employee leaves or whatever, they know that they need to go and retrieve those devices and so forth. Likewise, if someone wants to borrow a vehicle, then that needs to be tracked and have a register there of who's got what vehicle at what point in time. So let's have a look at this. We'll take a quick run through first. So under the company assets, I've got, first thing is the request. So if I want to request an asset, I can have a look and do that there. And I've got one sitting here that's already been approved. Next thing I want to look at is bookings. So this is where this is essentially booking it out of the library. Out of our department might have a bunch of assets or devices, whatever the case may be, that they issue out to their staff. And so we can see that in calendar view, in Kanban view, and in list view. We can see there's already one done there. Let me just go and scoot across there. So we can see there's one already been returned here. And then we've got configuration here where we've got some different categories of assets. So in this case, vehicles, laptops and phones. I'll come back to the assets now. And here's where we can see our assets that we've got in the business. And this is also filtered on the library. So these are things we can loan out to people. If I remove that, I can see we've also got another asset here, which is a phone that's been issued to Martin for his use while he's working with the company. So that's not necessarily in the library, so it's not something we would loan out, but it is assigned to Martin, and Martin's responsible for it. Whereas you notice some of these other ones, they're actually issued to departments for the purpose of loaning it to equipment or tracking purposes. So from a budget point of view, each department might have a budget, and they can allocate or spend certain amounts on equipment and devices for that department for department use, as opposed to this one, which was issued directly to a person. So that's the differences there. And so we go through requisition is when we want to. This is where Martin originally requested the phone, and that went through an approval process. It was in draft, then was submitted, then it was approved, and then we actually issued out the phone to Martin. We'll get into that in a second. Next thing I want to have a look at is our employees. So we've enhanced the employee module. We actually have some filtering now on departments over here. We can see all of our employees here. If I open up the employee, we've also added some information into the work information, which is an inspector number. So assets can be inspected, and particularly for calibration purposes. So if it's a vehicle, we may want to test things like the tyre pressures and lights and odometer readings and all those sorts of things. So in calibration, inspections differ from maintenance requests, where you're there deliberately fix something. Whereas for calibration, it's a different type of inspection. It's really where you're just keeping track that, making sure that vehicle is still working within tolerances and that sort of thing. So slightly different purpose. Very similar in nature, but different purpose. So in this case, I can see up the top here, I can see the equipment count, and at the moment, who is this person? Arnold White doesn't have any equipment assigned to him, but I think Martin did. So let's go and have a look at Martin. Where's Martin gone? There he is. And we can see that their equipment count for Martin is 1. So let's say Martin was to decide to leave, we would know we would need to go and get this phone back from Martin. And what else we've got here? Departments. So let's have a look at departments now. So these are the departments we've got set up in this database. If I open up one of these, I'll open up on site. A couple of the extra things we've got here is the approvers, the asset approvers. So these are ones that approve the phone to go to Martin, let's say. So when you're issuing a device to a person, this is the asset approvers, the ones that are allowed to approve that. Why? Because mainly because it's a department spend, and so you need authorization and you need to have the authority to spend that money, and so these are the people we have allocated as being approvers for that. Likewise, for booking approvers, you may have a completely different set of people in here for approvers. You can add as many as you like, and from whichever department you like. These are to approve the borrowing of equipment. So I want to book out a car for an hour to go and visit a client, or I need to book a projector for next week to present to a client, or something along those sorts of things. So different purpose for booking things out of the library as opposed to assigning it to a staff member. Again, we're in the departments here, and up the top I can see the assets that have been assigned to this department here. So I can click on the asset and I can see the truck belongs to the on-site department. So I hope that makes sense. Alright, so I think that pretty much does us for the employee side of things. So let's jump back now and let's have a look at maintenance. So a quick overview of the enhancements to maintenance. So no real changes for dashboard for maintenance requests or calendars, but we have made some improvements to the look of the equipment here. You'll notice we've got the categories and departments on the left there. That's not there by standard. And we've also enhanced the look and feel of this whole thing, so it looks much more attractive than it used to be. And we've also got list view here as well. Yeah, as I said, the maintenance requests are pretty much standard. Again, these maintenance requests are for corrective or preventative fixes for something, as opposed to inspection, which is just a point in time. We have, and those that have seen this app before will know that we have enhanced this with the parts and timesheets and a timer here as well. So out of the box, these don't exist, but this way we can consume parts if we need to do a repair and keep track of what parts and so forth we have consumed as we've repaired the equipment, and also to be able to maintain timesheets for obvious purposes. So I won't go into that. We can see that this equipment is actually in a category of vehicle. So that vehicle category, which I'll go to now, is under the different calibration types. We have, in addition to categories, we also have different calibration types as well. So the calibration types is, in this case, I'll go to vehicle, and for calibration purposes, these are the tests I'm going to do on that piece of equipment each time we need to do a calibration test on it. So you can see here it's an odometer reading, it's just a number, an integer, and in this case units is kilometres, and we don't really require validation on this because it's really just a reading, so there's no need to validate as such. It's just a recording of a fact. Whereas oil pressure is a pass-fail, tyre pressure is measured in CSI, and it's a number, but it's a float, so it's got decimal points in there, and we can open that up. We'll come back and have a look at that in a second. We can have photos, so if we need to take a photo, so this will be a pass when the photo exists. And so as part of that calibration, you may want to take a number of, let's say in this case a vehicle, you might want to take a number of photos from front, back, left, right, all those sorts of things. And then we've got an instruction type, which is purely just for that purpose, to provide instructions to the inspector should it be needed. And I can see there's three assets that's actually using this calibration type, and I can click on that, we can see the different vehicles that are actually using that calibration type. So, and then we've got the inspections up here. as you can see here, we've actually done an inspection for this, and you can see that everything's passed, and so it's got overall got a pass, and we can print out the report from here if need be, and that will print out a report, and we can set that report here, and then if we want to go, let's say, to the asset, which is, I think it was the tractor, we can actually print out the history from here, and you can see here that we've now got the history of all of the inspections that were done and where they passed, failed, and then some information about the most recent calibration, just to give people an idea of where things are up to. So these are really important, particularly in highly regulated environments, to make sure you can actually keep track of your, well, in this case vehicles, but it could be whatever. So let me jump out of this. Alright, so let's go and see some of this in action. So now we'll move on to the next part, which is actually looking at how do we actually do some of this stuff. So let's go back into our requisition. Let's say we're going to requisition a new phone for someone. I'm going to say, who's it for? I'm going to say Deborah. So Deborah's in the administration department. I can pick out John, he's in the stores department. I can pick out Catherine, she's also in stores. Who's Barry? Barry's in the on-site. But I'm going to pick Deborah. And I can see that the approvers for this is Arnold is the only person that's allowed to approve an asset to be spent with the administration department money. If I was to go to who's on site, I think it might have been Dan, no, he's in engineering, but nevertheless, this shows you that the people that can approve an asset to be issued to an employee is Arnold and Mary. And that's good. I'll keep going with this. So let's go and issue Dennis with a phone, which I do know we've got in stock, which is good, but if we didn't have it in stock, then what it would do is it would create a replenishment order, and then if that was a bit either automated or an order once, then it would also create the purchase order if need be. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. I won't go through that process here because we have limited time. But let's say I am logged in as the administrator, so I won't be able to approve this, but I'll be able to submit it, and so there's no harm in submitting it. And so now either Arnold or Mary needs to approve it. So if I try to approve it now, it says you can't do it because you're not actually in the list. And I can't change this list from here for deliberate purposes. So we need to log in as one of those approvers. So let me just open up a new window and go to log in as Arnold. Alright, so logged in as Arnold. Arnold would have got a message say that there's a job there waiting. So I'll go in here and I can see, this is submitted. I can see it's in Kanban and list view if I prefer to see the list view. I can open it up and yep, okay, I'm happy with that spend, that's fine. Let's approve it because yeah, we think Dennis really does need a phone. We can approve it and you can see that worked without a problem. So I'll just jump back to the administrator one now, so I've got the ability to actually manage the assets, because if you think about it, you get the approval from the department head or whoever approves it, then you've got to have the inventory guys or store guys or whatever else go and grab one out of stock and issue it, or go and order one, or have purchasing go and order it. So there's a whole workflow that may need to happen as a result of this, depending on whether you've got in stock or not, and who's allowed to do what. So let's go to the inventory first. So I can see that we've got a library. Oh, okay. Let me go back. I did not. What I did, the mistake I made, was I forgot to change the requested type. So this is actually Dennis borrowing it on the behalf of the department. So let me just go back now. I'll do this again. I'll go back in. Let me show you what I did. Here is assigned to a department. So there's two things. I can assign to a department or to the responsible. So let me just do that now. So I'll create a new one I'm going to select the responsible now and pick out Dennis. So this is going to be issued to Dennis, not to the department. So apologies for that. But nevertheless, a good demonstration on how that works. Alright, so I'll submit again. I'll jump back to my other screen. Go back to my request so I can see that submitted here. I can approve it. So requisition number 3. So that's been approved. I'll go back to someone's got the authority to actually manage the inventory. Go to the inventory, and now I can see that employee to deliver. So big difference there. When it's going to the employee, you'll have the delivery address of the employee. When it's going to the department, you don't need to actually post it or issue it to the person. It merely goes into their library. So it's slightly different workflow. But that's the thing. This handles both those workflows. All right. So we've got an iPhone now, and because all iPhones, all assets that we issue to staff or that we loan out needs to be tracked. So obviously we have a serial number which needs to be assigned. So let's go and pick out one of these serial numbers. And obviously we generate serial numbers and all those usual standard Odoo features. So now we've issued that serial number. I should be able to validate this, and now we're ready. So let's say we had FedEx or one of those other carrier installed in the system that we're connected to. We would then have our shipping here, and we'd be able to set up the, let's say FedEx, to go and send it out to the employee. All right. Now, if the employee ever needs to return it, we've both got the return button and all those standard features in Odoo. So let me go back now. So really, we've now considered this to be pretty much picked up by the employee. So if we go and have a look at our employees now, we're going to have a look at Dennis. We can see that Dennis does have a piece of equipment that they're responsible for. If Dennis ever decided to leave, we know who to go and, what to go and pick up from him. Standard features, as I said. All right. Next thing is about borrowing equipment. So these are all requesting for an individual, but let's have a look at bookings. And so we'll create a new booking. I'm going to pick out one for next week, maybe Wednesday. Pick out a time. So this is the 4th. So this is June 4th in my time format. In the States, you're probably using them reversed. But the first thing I've got to do here is I'm the requester. I'm going to be the one borrowing it. Now this might be, you might be actually setting up this borrowing for another person. PA might do it for their boss, whatever the case might be. But let's say I'm going to say Deborah's asked me if she can borrow the, I don't know, let's say what's she going to borrow the truck. Okay, so Deborah wants to borrow the truck next week on the 4th of June. It's 9:15 and going to return it at 10:15. And the provers here are Arnold and Barry. So they're the only people that can approve this. So I can submit that, and that's no problem. If I try and approve it, it says you're not the registered approver, so no good. You can't, and I can't move it any further forward. So let me just jump back to here. We've got our bookings. Let's go and have a look at our Kanban view. So been moved from draft into submitted and so forth. So let's go and approve that. Now I'm logged in here as Arnold. So I can up here if I won't show you now, but in my profile I'm logged in as Arnold. I can just drag that to the approved and done. Or I could have opened it up and clicked the approved button, either way. Now let's say that that date comes around, it's time to pick it up. So Deborah comes in, we grab the keys out, give her the keys, and we mark this as picked up. So you notice here now that the time as it's done with the current time of the time of pickup. So this is when it's scheduled to go out. and this is when it's scheduled to come back. This is the actual, and as you can guess, when we return it's going to populate the return button. So let's say that Deborah is really fast and she's come back. We can click the return button, and now it's gone back into being returned, and we've got that complete history here as well. We've also got in evidence and things down in the chatter of what happened and when. So we're tracking everything to do with this vehicle. So for vehicles or loaning equipment, it's really important to understand when was booked and who booked it, and when they picked it up, when they returned it. But also if if you happen to have multiple people trying to book the same asset at the same time, then obviously I'll throw up messages saying, hey, this is already booked, can't take it, you know, and all those sorts of things. So all that stuff's built into the platform. Alright, so the last thing, we probably should actually show you an inspection. So what we're going to do now is just have a look at the inspections. I can see we've got one that's complete here. I can have a look at my assets. I can see that I do have maintenance request. Oh, sorry, I'll go back to it. I've got one maintenance request here that we haven't dealt with. I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I can go to my truck and I can create a new inspection from here if I want to, or I can go to the inspections and create a new one from here and pick out my truck. Or what will normally happen is that when the truck is due for an inspection, one will automatically be created here through the cron job, through the scheduled tasks. So we don't really need to make these very often, but we can do it from either place. So let's go do it from here. So I'm going to create a new inspection, and so this is for the truck, and so far, and it's I'm still logged in here as Arnold. So Arnold's the one that's going to be doing the inspection in this case. So we can start the inspection now, and then it pre-populates with all of the tests that we need to do based on the calibration type being vehicle, and so it's pulled in all those calibration points that we need to address. First thing we do is put it in the odometer reading, so that might be something, make up some number. And you'll notice here that it's not checked yet, but when we tab away, it changed to not applicable because this is an odometer reading. It's not really a test as such. We're just recording the fact that it's got a number there. Let's say we check the oil level, that's all good. So we're going to tick the box that says oil level is good, and it passes. I'm going to check the tyre pressure here. So I'm going to put in, say, 15 and tab, and it fails. So obviously 15 is not within a tolerance. So maybe I mistyped or whatever. I want to go back and I want to make it 25, tab away, and that passes. So so we don't actually supply the tolerance numbers here because we want people to put in the real number and not just put in the number that they think it should be in between that range. So they do actually have to go and measure it. Then this next one's a photo, so we want to add a photo in here. So we go and add a photo with a saw. That sounds good. Not really relevant, but you know, it's really, you might take a photo from the front of the vehicle, one from the side, one from the back, one however you may need to. And once you've attached that photo, then it passes that as well. And the last type is the inspection. So let's go and review that. And says, okay, look for dents, scratches, and all those sorts of things. That's all good. So we can then, I double click that, acknowledge. Now that passes. Now once it's passed all of the required, we get an overall status of passed. And so now we're going to click the complete inspection, or we can drag it in the Kanban. I'll just click it here because I'm already here. And it says I need to provide a signature. So we'll click on it and add our hard to forward signature, and now we'll mark it as complete. Right, so that's all done. We can print out that report. I think we looked at this earlier. print out the report, and we can see that calibration report's done. It's all good. And then back on the equipment itself, if I choose to, I can click the button here and print out the full history of inspections, which I think there's 2 now. So you can see here that there's 2 inspections done. So you can see overall we've passed 2, we haven't failed any, and we've got none that are in progress, so that's all good. And then we've got some information about our most current recent calibration results there for people to see. So that's all good. So I think, I think we looked at that, didn't we? So we've got the different calibration types. We can add more in here if we want to, but we covered off the main types there. And said that there's 3 calibrations in here. Inspections, the reporting hasn't changed, the equipment, we've just added new features in here, and that's about it really. So feel free to get in touch if you have any questions, or if you want to delve in deeper into any of those aspects, and I'm happy to have a chat to you. Right, thanks for your time.